Hi, hello. Welcome to the episode of Isaiah's Newsstand. It's your host, Isaiah Edwards. The date is July the 27th, 2026. Hopefully, this episode finds you well, in good spirits and high hopes. As for me, I'm doing pretty good. Happy Monday, happy Garfield Day. Hopefully you got that lasagna. As for me, as for myself and I'd say I missed my slice. I'd say I missed the menu. But overall, it was a good day. Just in my head about some stuff. But we'll get to that. We can start all the way at the top from Friday. We have a big recap. Plus, I know I missed an extra day. But Friday was good. I went to work. I got out a little bit early. Then I went to the gym, and by a little bit early, I went like 10, 20 minutes. I tried to milk like as many putbacks as I could. And I was like, all right, let's pack it in. Let's go. Let's start the weekend. But I went to the gym. Gym was solid. Then I went home, got myself together, and headed out to my beautiful, wonderful girlfriends. Then let's see, what do we do? We've been watching Abbott Elementary, which has been nice, because I've never watched it up until last week, but I did finally get to watch the, what was it? The Always Sunny in Philadelphia Abbott Elementary crossover. I'd always seen like clips and pictures of that, and I'm Always Sunny fan. I haven't like fully caught up on it, but I do like the show. So I was like, okay, cool to see the crossover there. And overall, the show's just been pretty interesting. So we watched that. Um, Later that night, we wound up going to get some Swensons, which was like some burgers and whatnot. I got a barbecue, or not a barbecue, a double bacon cheeseburger, essentially, with some like onions and ketchup and mustard, all that. And then let's see, and then some onion rings. They had like this spicy tartar sauce, which is pretty good. Not the greatest, but very interesting flavor. And then I got some barbecue sauce. So overall, that was very yummy. And I'm missing a lot. I'm trying to cram a lot in, and we do have a lot of news to get to as well. So, mea culpa if I missed some stuff, and I don't remember everything that Zoe got throughout the weekend here. But let's see. Um, Saturday, we wound up going to Chameleon because we were going to see Sculptor. I mentioned that on the Thursday episode. But at Chameleon, they had an elote pizza, which was pretty yummy. I think they had like the sauce, like the base sauce was like some kind of elote situation. Had like cheese and corn and pineapple. Had like a really smoky flavor. That and some what was it? Pepperoni. Sliced pepperoni. So we each, Zoe and I each had like a slice of each, and then we split some Cajun fries. Very yummy. And then the show was great. It was cool. I got to see Mad Miller for the first time, or the Mad Miller Band, I think. There you go. And then I got to see Heist with the new singer. That was dope. And then it was nice to see Sculptor again with like their EP release songs rolled out live. So that was cool. It was a nice vibe. It was cool. It's always fun to get everybody crowded in a Junkers in the little dive bar, and it's like it's always usually pretty busy on the weekends, but like the fact that everyone is like packed in and we're all listening to music, it's a vibe. It was nice. And plus for me too, it was nice to kind of come back off the bench, off the wagon, and drink a little bit. So that was good. I'm still not in the habit of like getting sloshed or anything like that. But yeah, it was nice. But yeah, overall, good night there. Also, Zoe made some brownies when we got home. That was yummy, and I scarfed on a good amount of those throughout the weekend. Then let's see. On top of Abbott Elementary, getting back on the TV corner, a lot of Survivor. We're watching a lot of Survivor, as always, as a tradition. No Drag Race, because we've kind of wrapped up, the main stuff. I guess it's kind of like an off season, if you will. But I'm sure we'll be getting more Drag Race back into the rotation, or who knows, something else might be new. Let's see. Moving on though to Sunday. Let's see. What do we eat? I'm thinking food first. We went to this spot called Yummy Bowl. It's like this Mongolian grill situation. But we did like a takeout order. Let's see. I got this. What was it? I got this squid noodle and rice stir fry. I don't know. I was in a seafood mood, and I also got octopus balls. And then Zoe and let me. I guess should I explain the octopus balls? It might be good to give a little bit of an explanation what that was. I believe it was like some kind of doughy contraption with like octopus meat in the middle. Overall, they were all right. It was an interesting kind of flavor, and it had this like I can't even describe the sauce that it came with it, but it was okay. And they also had like yummy sauce too that I got that I dipped it in. Zoe also ordered us some spring rolls, and she got some sushi that they had because they had all kinds of stuff. They had like poke bowls, they had stir fry, which I got. She got a steak stir fry, which was probably the best thing. She got like a steak stir fry with noodle. I was like definitely pecking at that. But yeah, overall it was. Did I get everything? I think I did. There was like several sushi rolls, but I'd say the one that was like maybe the most interesting was the Mexican roll, which we think was like some kind of crab meat. Um, and then like I think they put a jalapeno in there, and then they fried it. And I was like, okay, all right. I guess that's giving Mexican. I don't know, but overall it was all right. Pretty good. That'd be my rating. Um, I would say for the squid, it was I got like I said, I got squid, rice, and noodles. It was good, but it had a little bit of a gummy flavor, which hey, I ordered the squid, I got what I got. Um, but I would definitely probably go back and eat the steak again if we were to go back. But yeah, I stayed a little bit later Sunday night because Zoe is going to be out of town next week. So I was like, let me go ahead, extend my time, hang out with my awesome rocking girlfriend, and we'll skip the gym, we'll skip the podcasting. So that leads us to Monday. Monday. I woke up and I was not feeling it. I was not feeling it physically. I was not feeling it mentally. In some way, shape, or form, everything kind of just hit me again for the week, for the month, for whatever my life, and I was just like, all right, well, that being said, let's go to work. And work was very similar to Friday in terms of the composition. It was very slow. Like there was just kind of just enough work to kind of keep me where I wanted to be. They did call me up at one point to go work upstairs, and I was like, I'm literally the only one right now working the buggies. Like, the other person had came, and then there was just a little bit more work, so I kept finishing out, and I'm like, let me just clear the area, and then I'll go up. So that's what I did. And, I don't know. I was just dragging. I was, trying several things, either hydrating, eating a little bit. At some point, I had a little coffee, a little Advil. I think that kind of perked me up. But I was just like, ugh, it was just not a good vibe. Um, but we trudged through the day. We went to the gym. Gym was good. It felt good to get back into the gym. I know it's like, oh, you took an extra day, Isaiah. You're acting like it was a millennia, but still, it was nice. It's nice to just get back into your rotation. It feels good. Also, it feels good to hit the weight and not hit the failure. I was really worried because like it was just busy enough at the gym where I had to use the incline press if I was going to use it, like if I was going to get any kind of incline press. I was like, fuck it, we're hitting it. We're hitting the 50. I'm just gonna hit it, and we're not gonna fail. And I didn't fail. I was very happy. I was very happy. Also, it was nice too. I ran into a homie, and he gave me some words of encouragement. So that was good. That was good for the ego. And it is always nice to have a quick little small talk with the homie. I missed that. But yeah, gym was good. I get home, I do my stretches, so that's good. I have my snack, which was also nice. I'm glad that my oranges have not been sucking. This batch of oranges was good. Last batch I had from last week, bad. Um, but yeah, a lot of news to cover. I tried to bundle this all up as best as I could, and I'm sure I've missed a lot, but I've also missed you, my dear listeners. Um, hopefully, I guess maybe you missed me. I don't know. Maybe you missed the app. But yeah, let's go ahead and do our startup, and let's get into the news. Ooh-wee. Okie dokie. Starting off with Al Jazeera. Israeli crackdown in occupied West Bank intensifies. Settlers cause mayhem. The Israeli military has launched an aggressive crackdown in the occupied West Bank, storming several towns and villages and detaining hundreds of Palestinians amid escalating attacks by Jewish settlers, in a furious reaction to a shootout in a village near Nablus in which 4 Palestinians and 2 Israeli soldiers were killed. The wide-scale military operation across the West Bank, ordered by Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, follows the deaths of the soldiers intensified on Sunday. And settlers became bolder and more violent, marauding through villages, just scrawling graffiti on buildings and attacking Palestinians. Settlers tried to set 2 mosques ablaze. At one of those, the newly built Al Rama mosque in the town of Kusra, southeast of Nablus, settlers spray painted slogans like Jewish revenge on walls, said Abdel Azim Wadi, head of the village council in Kusra. I keep trying it. Hopefully I'm not fucking that up. Videos verified by Al Jazeera showed fire consuming the mosque. The other mosque targeted in the arson attack was in the village of Kur, south of Tukurum. Farid Josi, a member of the village council, said 3 settlers tried to set the mosque ablaze at dawn, but worshippers put out the fire before it could reach the main area of the premises. Reporting from Ramallah, Al Jazeera Noor Odeh said Israeli forces raided Rafida near Nablus. They were also spotted in Huwara in the Nablus area, assaulting a paramedic and a man. There is video circulating from witnesses about that. The Palestine Red Crescent Society also reported an assault on one of its paramedics in Masafer Yada, to the south of Hebron, she said. So all across the occupied West Bank, there were overnight raids. Separately, the Palestinian news agency Wafa reported that 30 people were arrested in the village of Tal, where the confrontation that led to the crackdown took place, as well as 14 in Ramallah, 5 in Jenin, 8 in Hebron, 3 in Bethlehem, and 6 in Tulkarem. Wafa also reported that the Israeli forces launched a large-scale raid across the city of Jenin and several towns and villages in the governorate of Jenin. And then they list several towns, which I'm not going to butcher for you guys' ears, so we're just going to skip. The national broadcaster Khan reported that Israeli forces imposed strict traffic restrictions and numerous security checkpoints on main roads and at the entrances to villages across the occupied West Bank. The firefight that triggered the punitive and oppressive military response took place on Friday in Tal, southwest of Nablus. Each side disputes the other's accounts of the events that led to the confrontation. However, video footage confirms the testimony of villagers who say that a group of about 20 settlers, many of them wielding rifles, approached Tal with the intent of causing violence. Villagers came out of their homes to confront the settlers, and tensions rose. Israeli soldiers arrived. One of the villagers grabbed a gun from a settler, and a shootout erupted. Now, there's more details going on from here, but from that event, which was essentially settler aggression that pushed these people out, and essentially they were forced to react because you were literally being attacked. And then in the process of your people also being shot and killed, you wind up killing 2 of them. And for that, all of the shit that I have mentioned and have read has transpired, and more is going to, So, I mean, and this is a constant thing. It's a constant pushing. And then you will also see more of these outposts put around these villages, and more of this oppression, more of this pressure put on people to push them out of their homes so that you can essentially take it over and keep them off of their land, which is an ethnic cleansing at the very fucking least, right? So it is important for me to cover these stories. I remember hearing about it, on Friday, and, now I'm just now covering it, and it's seemingly somehow doubly worse. So, I did want to just start off with that. We're going to move on to our next story from the Associated Press. The suspect in the deadly The suspect in the deadly Berlin Pride attack is killed in a confrontation with police. The suspect in the deadly Berlin Pride attack that left 1 person dead and 29 injured was shot and killed by police during a confrontation on Sunday in a suburb of the city, authorities said. Abdu Balaut, a German citizen with Lebanese roots, was killed following a search that lasted nearly 24 hours after the attack in downtown Berlin. Prosecutors said he had previously sought to join the militant Islamic State group. Ballout was suspected of driving a van into a crowd near Berlin's Pride Festival Saturday night before apparently stabbing others with a machete in what authorities believe was an Islamic extremist terror attack. Interior Minister Alexander Dubrent said the attack occurred a few hundred meters from a party near the Brandenburg Gate that was supposed to close out the city's Pride Festival. Ballout was tracked down around 6 p.m. Sunday at a garden in Spandau, a Berlin suburb. The city's police department wrote on X. They said he apparently ran toward officers with a sharp instrument, and police fired at least one shot. He died at the scene. Ballout was born in Germany, the minister said. His mother was naturalized in 2002, 3 years before he was born. Ashley Jump, a 26-year-old UK resident, had traveled to Berlin for Saturday's Pride Parade, but had left the celebrations before the attack. They returned Sunday to leave flowers at a memorial near the crime scene in support of the LGBTQ plus community. They'll never erase us. We'll never be gone, they said. As long as humanity has existed, we've existed. And as long as humanity exists, we will exist. We will not be removed. Let's see. Ballout traveled to Lebanon in 2025 with the goal of going to Syria to join the Islamic State group, Berlin prosecutors said Sunday. There, he made contact with several people who were presumed members of the militant group, or at least he believed them to be, prosecutors said. He was arrested in Lebanon last year and sentenced by a military court to 3 months imprisonment for offenses including incitement to religious and sectarian conflict. He reported to Germany after completing his sentence, where he was arrested at the Berlin airport. In May, a juvenile court in Berlin convicted Ballout of preparing a serious act of violence endangering the state, as well as publishing Islamic State propaganda on his Instagram account and other charges, prosecutors said. The court handed down a suspended sentence of 1 year and 10 months in youth custody, which Berlin prosecutors had appealed. The court said it took Ballout months of pretrial detention in Germany and Lebanon into account. It also said it considered that Ballout had confessed to the crimes, appeared to distance himself from the militant group, and no actual threat had ever materialized. He was released from detention pending the appeal. According to police, a white van drove into Tiergarten Park around 10 p.m. and hit several people, colliding with a tree. The closing party at the Pride Festival, known as Christopher Street Day, was ongoing at the time next to the Brandenburg Gate, a short distance away. The party followed a parade with some 80 trucks that had made its way through downtown Berlin earlier in the day. The attack did not occur at the festival along its route or at the closing party. Rather, the violence took place a few hundred meters away from the track in the Tiergarten Park. The van ran down into a crowd that was likely a mix of festival goers and other locals or visitors. Police said a woman was killed. So there's more details after that, but I really just wanted to do that whole wrap up because it had a summary of the person who's operated the van, Ballout. So felt like it was, important to do that, but also, at least get some testimony of the people who were there on the day, at least a person. Obviously very unfortunate, very sad that a person chose to do that. And this is, definitely been a constant. This is a bit unrelated, but I remember I was talking actually with Zoe. We were talking about just like road rage stuff, and just initially, obviously in America, you think, it's I don't like getting very angry or very aggro if someone like cuts me off or someone does something I don't like on the road, because you say or do the wrong thing, next they're pulling out and they're popping off in your GTA style. You feel me? And what can I do? I'm not packing. I'm going to drive aggressively. But guns aside, you are literally two people in this situation who can we have two vehicles that can be used for essentially mobile missiles, and you can just drive into somebody. You can drive someone off the road. You can do whatever the fuck you want. So imagine you're in a situation where it's like, hey, I'm going to use this vehicle and just run into a group of people. That is such a crazy thought, an unhinged, evil thought. But people have been doing that in a constant sense. It is not, that's not a new phenomena that I've covered, and it's been a thing that's happened even before I was doing coverage. So it's very sad. Obviously, it's unfortunate. But yeah, I wanted to get that. And for the episode, there's another unfortunate story that we are going to get into. I mean, I hate to say it, but most of our stories are usually unfortunate. But our next story is going to be taking place in Seattle. It's from the BBC. This was just the most current I could find in terms of like the situation. That's why we're using like the BBC. So let me take a water break. I'm losing my voice. All right, rehydrated. Okay. Number of suspects in fatal Bite of Seattle Food Festival shooting rises to 3. Seattle police say they now believe at least 3 people were involved in a fatal shooting at a food festival on Sunday. Police initially said 2 suspects were thought to have been at said 2 suspects were thought to have been shooting at each other at the annual Bite of Seattle Food Festival at the Space Needle, one of the city's most popular tourist spots. However, court papers relating to the arrest of one of these, a 15-year-old, on Monday revealed they now think there is a third. One is still being sought by police, while the other is thought to have been killed at the scene. 3 people were killed in the shooting, and at least 4 others were injured, including a 2-year-old boy. The teenage suspect waived his initial appearance in court on Monday, and he was remanded in custody pending trial, according to local media. Ahead of the hearing, police revealed in court documents that they believe the 3 suspects may have fired shots during the gunfight. Court papers filed by the police say investigators are searching for at least one other unknown suspect, according to local media. The 3 people who died on Sunday were 19-year-old Junior Sinico Simo, Carlos Israel Sanchez. Let me run that back. Carlos Israel Sanchez Villalba. We're gonna say Villalba, 44. That is a really long name. Sorry. And Ashley Whitehead, 56, according to the King County Medical Examiner. Police now believe that Simo was involved in the gunfight. 2 deaths were confirmed at the scene, and 1 person died later in hospital. 2 guns were recovered at the scene, police said. Sunday was the final day at the annual 3-day food festival, which draws some 350,000 people each year. Videos shared online show people crouched on the ground, taking cover behind pillars and shelves of merchandise in the Space Needle's lobby during the shooting. There's more testimonials and information here. I definitely want to come back to this story if they do wind up finding the 3rd suspect. Literally right before covering this, I thought they were just 2, but then reading this, I was like, wait, there's a 3rd, and they died at the scene. I was like, okay. I'm running off the notion that this was some kind of altercation between the 3, that either 2 parties or all 3 had a weapon, and they just started shooting, and then people are caught in this crossfire. Once again, not a new thing in America, that's for fucking sure. It is unfortunately a have gun will travel situation a lot of times. Even in situations where, we're talking Seattle, that probably has, I'm pretty sure has, more stricter gun laws. People still find a way, especially when you have situations where you can hop, skip, and go to another state and then make that happen. So therefore, one way or another, guns can just move across state lines. And that tends to happen that way. But anyway, let's not get in the weeds about that. Fires to tend to put out. Let's move on to our next story. It's actually a BBC double feature. That kind of sounds crazy if you are not thinking in the news world. But hey, so it goes. The BBC. Devastating European wildfires in maps and how they're being tackled. Wildfires are tearing through France and Spain, forcing more than 300,000 people to evacuate their homes. France has seen its worst fires in 2 decades, while officials in Spanish capital Madrid say they are the worst the region has ever experienced. It follows a sweltering summer of heat waves across Europe that have seen temperatures soar above 400, or no, not 400, my bad, 40 Celsius or 104 degrees Fahrenheit in many places. Separate wildfires in regions outside Madrid have together burned about 297 square miles, authorities estimate, in an area larger than Madrid itself. And they have a map here. But yeah, in France, the worst affected area is. Oh, I'm just gonna try it. I'm gonna leap on this one. Durandi, around the city of Bordeaux. Is it Bordeaux? Bordeaux? Who knows? Many people know, not me. Anyway, where more than 200 people have been forced from their homes. The blaze has spread rapidly, tearing through forests and fields in France's famous wine region and burning more than 162 square miles in less than 4 days, an area roughly 4 miles or 4 times the size of Paris. It is now just 9 miles or 15 kilometers from the south of Bordeaux. So yeah, just a quick recap there in terms of the fire. I was listening. I think this was Start Here. I'm not exactly sure. It might have been the BBC broadcast, like podcast situation that I listened to, but they had a firefighter explaining it, at least in terms like from the situation in France, saying that it's one of those times that you see the fire move in ways that you would never expect it to, and that's obviously a person who is in this kind of situation a lot of times. That's what they do for a fucking living. So it's crazy to me when they say Mother Nature is doing something you're just not used to. And I think, a lot of scientists, analysts, whatever, are saying, well, it's just you're seeing a higher frequency of these things and they become more of their most extreme and you see more freak cases because it's just hotter. You're seeing more heat and it's just one of those things where obviously we're not just talking Europe when we're talking about these things. It is a worldwide situation. So sadly, we just are, I guess, kind of just have to keep expecting it and hope that, we get better technology or whatever, because it doesn't seem like we're really bringing this shit down. Really, it doesn't seem like we're lowering the temperature, so to speak. But that being said, my thoughts are with the people in Spain and France, affected by these wildfires. I haven't heard of any casualties as of yet. We're knocking on wood there. Just a lot of people, obviously displaced. But also just hearing like weird stories of people being like, hey, I was on one part and the fire's moving so fast. I'm seeing it coming. I'm coming out. People are chilling on the beach. Like they're just not. They know that there's shit happening, but they don't know how bad this is about to be. It's like it's about to be right on our door. We got to get out of here. We're gonna get trapped, because that's a lot of situations. Is people are either getting like they have to evacuate or they have to stay like kind of in this area while the fire is kind of being contained in some situations. So definitely shit is scary. It's freaky off fire. All right, we have one more story that I wanted to cover. That I didn't really expect to cover, and usually you don't root for a cockroach, but this is one of those times where, I feel like I gotta pitch it to you. But yeah, let's go ahead and take our last break and we'll go ahead and close it out. Oof. Sadly, we missed the rainy storm ASMR opportunity. I was doing my research and it passed through, but I'm kind of glad because I always hate and I have the fear that I'm going to lose power in the middle of an episode, and that would make me cry. All right, our last story. Whew, it's coming from NPR. India's cockroach movement ousts minister, but can Modi calm youth? We're going to read a good amount of this, so hold on to your butts. India's education minister tendered his resignation on Saturday, meeting a key demand of students whose anti government protests swelled this week beyond the capital, New Delhi, and onto the street of more than a dozen cities. Following the news of the resignation of the education minister, Dharmendra Pradhan, a spokesman for protest leaders Surav Das called on demonstrators, mostly students, to go home. He said the protests, which began in early June, would end in good faith. The students held Pradhan responsible for a series of leaks in nationwide exams for university seats of government. Or let me run that back. The students held Pradhan responsible for a series of leaks in nationwide exams for university seats or government jobs, which millions of students take every year. The protest posed the most serious challenge to the 12-year rule of India's Hindu nationalist Prime Minister Narendra Modi. For weeks, the government had ignored the protesters, then vilified them, with the education minister calling protest leaders the B team of terrorists, according to the Indian daily, The Hindu. Presenters of Modi-loyal media outlets suggested the protest leaders were paid by India's enemy and neighbor, Pakistan. The government realized that the familiar playbook that it's often deployed to deal with these kind of agitations was not working, said Milan Vaishnav, a senior fellow and director of the South Asia program at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace and host of the popular podcast Grand Tamasha. He added, they were not easily able to undermine the credibility of the protesters. The pressure was mounting. I think this was their way of trying to cut their losses. I would also add too that these stories seem very like they touched a lot of notes from people because everyone like knows about these exams. They understand the weight and the importance of it. There were so many times where I was hearing parents being like, I lost a family member to this, or like one of my sons or daughters has gone through this whole thing, like, and because I know that story, that's why I'm out here. That's why I brought my sons or daughters, friends out with me. You know what I mean? Like, it definitely was a story that resonated with a lot of people, and once they heard it, they're like, okay, cockroach, like, and we're gonna get to why they're called that, but like, yeah, we're coming out to support, we're gonna rock the match, we're gonna fucking, be heard. In a 2-page letter posted on X, Pradhan said he was resigning because he didn't want the students' anger to be exploited by anti-national forces. He did not clarify what he meant by anti-national forces, but it appeared to be a dig at insinuations that the protesters were led or infiltrated by enemies of India. Pradhan did not apologize for the paper leaks. And granted, I mean, he's a sacrificial lamb here. I don't think that him being gone is going to actually really change things for this situation, for this process, which is why I understand that this movement isn't necessarily trying to be like, okay, yeah, let's pack it in. I mean, there's some parts of it, sure, but others are like, no, there needs to be more. We need to like take this and run with it. More needs to be done for sure. Near the main protest site in New Delhi, streets echoed with cheering students whose celebrations went on well into the evening. Abhijit Dipki, a 30-year-old whose satirical group, Cockroach Janta Party, has been leading the protests, fell to his knees on hearing the news. Then he raised his fist and announced, "We have done it." Even as leaders told protesters to go home, Dipke said in a statement that the students had other demands. Compensation for the families of students who died by suicide after questions of a medical entrance exam paper leaked in May, forcing 2 million students to retake the test. One of the incidents initially sparked these protests. The local newspaper, the Indian Express, reported that at least a dozen students died by suicide following the announcement, with some leaving notes behind saying they could not bear the idea of resitting the exam. It's just it's so much pressure, so much is on the line, and you're saying because you guys dropped the ball and let this shit leak, now I have to go back and put it all back on the line again, and they just couldn't do it. They're like, no, I would just rather not. And I understand that people are saying this is just something that you guys are okay with happening, and it's fine. And so until we ask and demand for these people's jobs, and these people to step down, and it went all the way up to the Modi, then you guys won't listen to us. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to keep coming out in the streets. And they also had a very peaceful method of protesting, which is always something I feel like I'm very drawn to. I understand both methods. I get it. I understand. But I do feel like that one usually tends to go the farthest, be the easiest to kind of show on TV and spread and be like, hey, I can get behind it. Once again, I can bring my family to it because that's important, But yeah, let's continue. I'm doing a little side talking, a little too much, I know. Let's see. The resignation of Pradhan, seen as a confidant of the Prime Minister Modi, suggested the government had to shift tactics after protests, which began in New Delhi on June 7th, dramatically swelled in size. Unlike previous protests in India's recent history, these demonstrations cut across the country's traditional demographic lines. India has the world's largest number of young people, with around 367 million people between the age of 15 and 29. Education is a kind of lever, bringing everybody together, said sociologist, Rahil Datiwala. Let's see, we're gonna skip ahead a little bit here because I'm gonna get to this part. Why they got this name, why they're called the Cockroach Janata Party. Let's see. The protest coincided with a controversial comment by India's Chief Justice Surya describing unemployed youth as cockroaches. In May, a comment he later said was misquoted, which you love that. The comments are what prompted Dipki to form the Cockroach Janata Party. Yeah, I believe he heard that shit and was pissed off and just started like making like online, groups, and like it just grew and grew and grew and grew and grew and grew and multiplied. And then they fucking took that shit to the fucking streets. So in that regard, it isn't surprising because that is something we've been covering, especially over the past few years with like the Gen Z movement. They've been really getting out. They've been really fucking being heard. They're not taking no for a fucking answer. So seeing that in India was very cool to see from this small groundswell and then just boom, blossomed into what it is right now. I'm obviously rooting for them to get fucking everything that they can. I mean, like I said, they were at some point, calling for Modi to step down. You know what I mean? So I think at that point, once again, they were taking it seriously, and they said, well, we got to give them somebody at this point. And I mean, there's more details these are here, but they even got to the point where we're saying, well, we're going to get justice for you. Though actually, the people that were a part of these leaks are lying in jail. That's like a quotable from Modi doing like fireside chats. Like he was talking on the daily. He might still be. I don't know. So this was good. This is some good news, in my opinion. Like I said, very weird, very rare to be rooting for the cockroach, but I mean, hey, today on the podcast we are. So that's the episode. There's definitely a lot more if you'd like to read, catch up on it, but we'll go ahead and call it a day there. I feel like I covered a lot, and I feel good about that. All right. If you'd like to help out, support the effort, I do have a Patreon, patreon.com/IsaiahNews. Become a newsie today. Free ways to me up, IsaiahNews1@gmail.com. Feel free to follow me or the podcast on any of the socials. Let's see, subscribe to the YouTube, follow on TikTok, follow on Spotify, follow on Apple Podcasts, wherever you like to listen. Leave a like, leave a cool comment. Sharing is always caring. All the stars are appreciated on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. But if you don't do any of that, that's A-okay. I am stoked that you decided to hang out with me for another episode. So yeah, thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks so much for being a friend. And hopefully I'll see you soon for some more good news. I love ya. Bye-bye. Mwah.